All right, welcome to the special encore edition of Generative AI for business marketing. I'm excited to be able to re-record this. The live recording, for whatever reason, did not come out as I had hoped. Our friends over at Zoom failed me, but nonetheless, here we go. So let's talk about the agenda on this call. We're going to talk a little bit about the opportunity that businesses have in front of them when it comes to utilizing AI for marketing and the operations behind marketing. We'll talk a little bit about the landscape of what's going on in AI now and project a little bit into the future of what's to come. We'll talk about very specific practical applications for utilizing AI. I'll share details of my 90plex 60 AI implementation program, and on the live call there was Q&A, but we will skip over the Q&A here on this recording. In case you don't know me, my name is David Baer. I have been marketing in one form or another since the mid-1990s in the arts world, in the wine world. I started a Facebook ads agency in 2010, and these days I mentor and train marketing agency owners and service providers. And I have been playing around with artificial intelligence tools since 2020. Some people baked bread during the pandemic, which I did, by the way. But as we hit the end of 2020 and early 2021, I got deep into all of these new artificial intelligence tools. It started off with a tool called Conversion.io, I think is what it was called at that time. It's now known as Jasper, and played around with a lot of other tools, some of which were not nearly as good, and I bought a lot of things on AppSumo that I really never revisited after the first time I played around with them. In any event, I guess I'm a little bit of an AI geek and have been utilizing it in lots of different places in my business and in my clients' businesses and on projects that I have been involved with as well. So let's talk a little bit about the best way to think about AI. What can it do for you? Well, it can help you do things better, faster, and cheaper. It's kind of the best way to sum it up. And you'll see that as we go through some of the examples that we're going to be looking at today. So here's a great way to think about how AI fits into you, your business, the business that you're trying to create, the business that you're trying to serve. What business problems are you dealing with currently that can either be served by AI or trying to figure out how can AI serve you in addressing those problems? And let's talk a little bit about the range of areas where AI could potentially be helpful to you. I would say that there's probably a much, much longer list than this, but to simplify things, marketing and sales is fairly obvious. Operations and the operational activities that support marketing and sales, that's really where I have focused my attention. But then, of course, there's things like engineering and IT and risk assessment and legal things and research and development within business as well. But here's, I think, as you're starting to journey into the world of AI, the way that I recommend thinking about it, because when you're playing around with the vast number of tools out there, and there's a lot of them, it's easy to get distracted. So, number one, I would say, look at what you're currently doing in your business, your current activities, and think, hey, is there a way that AI can help perform these tasks or help at least do them in part to speed up my activity around this? And, this is obviously a wide range of things that you may be doing in your business, but are you writing on a regular basis? Maybe it's a daily email or a weekly email. Maybe it's blog posts. Maybe it's social media content. Those are all regular tasks in a lot of businesses where either they are getting done, but infrequently or inconsistently, or they're not getting done, or the person who's responsible for them is dreading doing them or isn't doing them very effectively. And so that's where the better and faster and potentially cheaper comes into play. Then, of course, there's all of those desired things, the things that you want to be doing in your business, but you're not. And how can you get started doing some things that maybe you said, someday I'll get to that, or trying to, find the time but haven't found it, or trying to create the time, as I like to say, and haven't made that a priority. Well, AI can finally help you address some of those things. However, here's what I say you should avoid, and that's going down the rabbit hole of getting distracted by things that are not necessarily going to be a good use of your time. So, let's talk about some of the potential marketing and sales activities that you may want to participate in or utilize AI for. Obviously, there's all of the content creation that you could potentially do with artificial intelligence tools, creating blog posts and emails and social media posts. But then there's also images that can be created through AI, videos, and other collateral. Then there's things like creating user guides for products for your consumers, your clients, your customers to use. And that could be either once they've been sold and you're giving them materials, or materials to get the sale to happen, right? So there's all kinds of production that can happen on that front. Then you can think about things like analyzing customer feedback, doing a survey, and then having the AI go through and look over the results that you got from the survey and report on that. Like here's the analysis of what the general direction of the feedback was, or here's the things that were consistent, here were the outliers. You can get AI to review all of that and give you not only a report on it, but then make recommendations to you about what to do about the feedback and how to prioritize those things. You can also do things like analyze how well or how poorly sales conversations are going. Like this is a great thing to, if you're doing sales calls and you can get a transcript of them, have the AI help analyze what's going well, what's not going well, where are things, if you have it analyze your best salesperson's calls and what is that salesperson doing that others aren't, so that others can learn to emulate or do those particular activities or engage in those particular lines of questioning or whatever it may be in the conversation that they're doing. That's a way to improve your overall sales team. All right, let's change subjects because I want to talk a little bit about the landscape of artificial intelligence. So this is a chart. Every year for the last 12 years now, this company, Chief Martech, has released this chart, and I'm going to show you kind of a review of the last 12 years of this chart in just a moment. But this is the May 2023 released chart of all of the marketing technology tools that are out on the market and available to us as businesses or as marketing teams today. Now, let's take a look at this going back 12 years to 2011, when there were approximately 150 tools that they cataloged. And we are now at over 11,000 tools. And with the AI tools that are coming online these days, there's even more of these tools. And it's an ever increasing number of tools. I am overwhelmed with, in my inbox, the announcements about this new AI marketing tool or marketing capable platform that, is arriving pretty much every single day, an announcement of 3 or 4 or 8 or 10 of them. How do you keep track of all these? And, I realize there's a typo on here, so my apologies, but there are several platforms that are really good at keeping track of all these. The one that I like the most is futuretools.io. There's also, and this is where the typo is, there's an AI for that. I wrote for some reason OI, but there's an AI for that.com. And then there's these others as well, which are all really good at cataloging and showing you what is out there. But be warned, right? I was just at there's an AI for that earlier today, and there's over 4,000 different tools just listed on that site alone. You don't want to go down the rabbit hole. So go back to those slides that I showed you a few minutes ago. What are you trying to accomplish? And let's start there, because that's really what will dictate the tools that you consider using and the tools that you just say, yeah, that would be kind of cool to play around with, but it's going to be a distraction, so I'm just going to ignore it. Of course, it's not just these small companies that are putting out these AI tools. There's also some larger companies that you may be familiar with. If you look at this interface, you probably recognize it. It is the Google, it's now called Workspace platform, but used to be called the G Suite. And this is the latest iteration that they have announced will be coming. And as of today, which is June 8th, 2023, it's not yet on the market, but they are saying AI is going to be built into these platforms. And of course, they're not the only ones. Here is a release of, or not a release, a rendering of what the Copilot capability inside of all of the Microsoft Office suite tools is going to look like as well, where there's AI built in to be able to help you in a number of different ways with the expediting the tasks on these tools, and even going back and forth and saying, hey, I'm writing this thing and I need help, or I need input, or can you give me ideas, or can you help me generate a list to fill in this section of the thing that I'm creating, right? So there's a lot of different activities that we're going to see from large companies like Microsoft and Google, of course. And then there's tools that I find myself using on a regular basis. Case in point, this one. So this is a Chrome extension, a tool called Perplexity, which I think is probably, I've tried a bunch of these. It's the best one that I have found so far for helping summarize content online. And that's not the only thing it does, but it does that really well. And so here's our article that I was reading at Harvard Business Review, and then I kind of looked at it. I was like, I don't want to read this. This is a little boring. I just want to understand the key points here. Can you please summarize this? And so I had Perplexity give me the key details, the key takeaways from this article, and we'll be revisiting that a little bit later. But just today, as I was logging into Zoom to set up the presentation, Zoom announced yesterday that they are offering free trials of this new meeting summary tool they're calling Zoom IQ. And so you'll likely see this in your account. I don't know if it's just in the paid version or if it's also in the free version, where you'll have the ability to have Zoom, and there are already third-party apps that do this, provide summaries of meetings and task lists of what was decided and, who got assigned what responsibility and all of that sort of thing. So there's a lot of stuff that is moving right now in the artificial intelligence space. And as I showed you just a moment ago, tools that we are already using, right? Zoom and Microsoft products and Google products are going to have, or already do have, artificial intelligence built right inside them. So like I said, there's so much happening right now. This guy whose image you're looking at on the screen, his name is Matt Wolf. He has a one of the many different YouTube channels that have been built up around artificial intelligence. He's got some great content that he puts out, sort of reporting on this every single day. I don't know if he puts a video out every day, but multiple times a week. And then he does sort of a weekly AI in the news summary. And it's overwhelming how much stuff is going on. A couple of other things. Zapier is one of the many different plugins that is now available in ChatGPT, so that it has the capability to do things like look at websites or at Google Sheets or interface with other listings. You can look at open table reservations or I don't know. There's so many tools in there, and that list of plugins is growing every day. Another thing that recently showed up in my inbox just yesterday, this article or this email about how AI is going to impact search engine optimized content and how traffic is likely going to change. I've been playing around with the new version of Google, which is not available to the public yet, which is prioritizing artificial intelligence results over the SEO organic results and the AdWords results, and that's going to be quite interesting to see how that impacts search engine derived traffic going forward. So look, there's a lot going on in artificial intelligence, and while there's only a small percentage, like something like 10 to 15% of businesses that have really even started to play with and utilize these tools. But a lot of the ones who are in this space are rapidly acting on it. And we're going to see more and more as we go. So I was thinking about, how do you think about getting into the AI world as a business? And Wayne Gretzky, who was a hockey player, said at some point when someone asked, what do you attribute your success as a hockey player to? And he said, "I skate where the puck is going, not where it has been." And I think that that's a useful concept to consider as we're thinking about how to utilize artificial intelligence in our business. There's a lot of different ways that we can approach this. And I think the businesses which are going to find the most success in the next few years are the ones which embrace putting AI in a key role intended to accomplish certain tasks in their business. So here's one way that I think it's really useful to think about artificial intelligence. If you think of these tools as playing the role of the intern in your business. Now, there are a lot of different quality interns. There's the intern who is there to just get summer credit and, doesn't really contribute very much except going and getting coffee for people. And there's the intern who, when you give them a task and you give them enough detail around that task and the context of that detail, they're going to help advance your process, project, whatever, that much more efficiently and effectively. And so what role does that mean you will play? Well, instead of being the doer, you can be the project manager, or as I was talking about with some copywriters earlier today, instead of being the writer, you are now the editor of your materials. So it's a great way to think about how can you apply artificial intelligence in your business and think about the role it can be playing. As an intern gives you a different role in your responsibilities as well. All right, let's talk about a few of the resources that I'm using in my business. There's a ton, as I showed you, right? Thousands of them. I think I saw like something like 4,000 on the there's an AI for that.com website, as I said. But I tend to focus on a handful. And the first one I'm going to talk about with you a little bit is Jasper. Then we'll talk about ChatGPT, and to a lesser extent, Notion, which is not really, although there is AI built into it, I use it for a slightly different purpose. So how do we figure out like the activities that we're going to focus on with AI? Well, it's kind of funny that I've used two sports related figures to provide quotes here, but I'm actually not a big sports fan at all. But I do love Yogi Berra's quotes, and this is a doozy of a quote from him. If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. The point being, you need to start by figuring out, what am I trying to accomplish when I get started with an AI tool, as opposed to just jumping in there and saying, let's see what this thing can do for me. So here are a few examples of the types of things that we could aim to accomplish. We could try to do audience research, identifying things like the pain points of our ideal customer, or the language that they use, and say, hey, ChatGPT, or hey, Jasper, I'd love to understand the top pain points of my ideal client. Here's the business I'm in. Here's the problem I solve for them. And give me 10 quotes of the things that they might say complaining about this problem that they're having. Well, that's kind of cool because then you can create the language that they are using and apply that to things like sales copy. Then, of course, there's obviously the copy and the marketing materials. There's chatbots that you could actually take a website that you own, right? Your company's website, and if there's good content all over that website, there are tools where you can take and apply OpenAI's API or a different platform's API, have it scan your website for the content, and then you can create a chatbot that when somebody arrives on your site, it can pop up and say, "Hi, can I help you?" And because it knows not only where things on your site, but things like, how much do you charge? What are your hours? Can you help with this service or that service? It can give conversational responses to people's questions. I mean, it's amazing the types of tools that you can inject into your business right now. Obviously, email marketing, predictive analysis to get a sense of where things are going. And because in addition to the data that you might input for your business, it has the ability to pull from all of the data that these AI platforms, these large language models, have in their, it's not databases exactly, but their research. They can apply their extensive knowledge far beyond just your business's situation. Then there's all of the roles in your business or ancillary roles around your business. Like, let's say you want AI to be your business coach or a data analyst or a marketer who is writing emails for you. You could have AI play that role and produce output that you can then utilize in your business in various ways, probably as a draft right now, but at some point I think it could probably even get to the final output in terms of its quality. And then a few other ways that you could use it. I was recently working with somebody who needed to create SOPs for their business. And so things like staff training. I mean, there's some pretty cool things that you could develop with AI. All right, I want to jump into Jasper, one of the tools that I use on a regular basis. As I said, I started using this back in, I think it was the spring of 2021, when it had a different name. It's now on its third name, and I think they're going to stick with this one. Here's a quick screenshot of what Jasper, I think actually I was going to say what it used to look like. They keep changing their interface, and so it looks slightly different now. But look at all of these things up here, these different areas that it can do stuff. So like blog creation or e-commerce or email, right? In this case, I just chose the ads section, and you could create ads with Jasper by doing something simple like it would ask you for what's the product, who's the target audience, and what's the call to action that you want, and then you click a button, right? You fill out those three things, and then it would generate the ad, and all kinds of other permutations of how it can be used, but it's for those who have, been inside of a platform like ChatGPT, which we're going to look at in a moment. This is a lot easier and accessible for somebody who really isn't comfortable figuring out what are the prompts that I need to put in there. What do I need to ask? This is much more helpful in just guiding you through that process more easily. And then, of course, it does have more sophisticated stuff in there as well. So, here's an example of something that I was working on where we were trying to generate output for, in this case, this was a section of a sales letter, a guarantee that we were trying to put in there. And I wanted to, this was, who we were doing it for, what industry they were in, what they were trying to accomplish, what we were selling, etc. And I said, rewrite the content above and swapping out this stuff for the things that are specific to these particular parameters or these particular variables. And it would then it would generate the output. Now, here's another cool thing. I told you that that Google is going to soon have in their tools AI embedded. Well, right now you can actually use Jasper anywhere through its Chrome extension. And so here I was in a Google Doc, and we put together some information, and I said, okay, now I'd like to run this prompt or this instruction by using the Jasper extension. It did the writing for me to sort of answer the question that I had, which was to take some information and rewrite it for some draft copy for a website that we were working on. All right, let's move over to ChatGPT. If you haven't seen the interface, this is what it looks like. Actually, it looks slightly different than this. I have a Chrome extension that's in mine that changes the look and feel of it a little bit. And I want to talk about prompting and prompt quality and the input and its impact on output. So I was doing a presentation not too long ago for folks in the senior services industry. And I used this as an example just to show them how they could utilize these tools. And so what I did was I did 3 different versions of asking a question, each time getting more sophisticated in the way that I asked the question. So the very first version of the question was a very simple one. List the top 5 challenges senior living communities are dealing with. And that's it. And it gave me some good output. But the stuff that it gave me is pretty obvious and pretty generic and not all that inspired. And I said, okay, well, how can we improve upon this? Well, let's start improving upon it by looking at the structure of prompting. Now, there's a lot more than what I'm showing you on the screen, but this is a good basis for how to create prompts. First, there's the task. What are you trying to get it to do? What are you saying? I would like you to do the following. And if you provide a task with clearly worded, clearly defined, clearly outlined instructions, that's great. And the more specificity, the better. Then there's context. Like, what is the additional information? What is the environment that you are asking this question in? And I'll show you examples of all this in just a moment. And then finally, the modifiers, the things that are going to help fine tune it just a little bit more. So let's look at version number 2 of this request, which is act as a leader or as a senior living industry leader. Identify and list the top 5 challenges faced by senior living communities in the Oregon, Southwest Washington area. Suggest potential solutions to the outcome. Okay. And actually, I didn't read that correctly, but you get the gist of it. So let's break this one down because I want to show you now all of the pieces of this, and hopefully I'll read it correctly here. So the task: identify and list the top 5 challenges faced by senior living communities. Suggest potential solutions to overcome them. I think I said outcome them or something like that last time. So I added the suggestion part. I said, the suggest solutions. That wasn't in the original prompt, right? I also said in the next part, the context is you are no longer, or I didn't even say who it was. This time I defined you're a leader in the senior living industry. So it now has a narrower range of data to pull from because it now knows, all right, I'm not thinking about everything that I've ever encountered and I have to figure out what I'm going to put into my answer. I'm only looking at from the perspective of somebody who is a knowledgeable leader in this specific industry, how I'm going to answer this question. And then finally, the modifier, I said, okay, a very specific geographic area, not knowing what the output was going to be, but maybe there was going to be some output that that related to the area that we were in. Now, let's go back and look at that. You can see that here it talks about affordability and cost of living or natural disasters, which may not show up necessarily in another region. Had I said, had I defined a different geographic area. All right, now let's move on to the next and most sophisticated prompt. This one, it was very long and detailed, and I basically said, you are a highly seasoned expert in the area of senior services. You've had every job in every subsector of the industry, both from like CEO of major international organizations to the janitor, or a home health aide or an elder attorney, right? So this industry inside and out from every perspective. And the complexities of things like the financial considerations or how insurance enters into it. And I just kept building it up into the depth of knowledge that it had. And then, of course, asked the question. And this was the most sophisticated and detailed output that we got as a result of asking the question this way. Now, I want to stress something. Of these three, it's not that one is better than the other. It's that the output that you get is different, and each one has its place. Asking a very simple question is totally appropriate sometimes. Asking a highly sophisticated question is totally appropriate sometimes. And you just have to play around with seeing where you're getting the type of output that makes the most sense to you. All right, let's jump on to another case study. I want to tell you about an email marketing project that I was working on with a guy. And he wanted to send out regular emails to try to get people onto phone calls. So he's in the coaching business where he teaches people how to do day trading in stocks and that sort of thing. And so there were two steps to this process. The first is I was trying to get a sense of the way that he talks, because in the emails, I wanted the output to really emulate his natural talking and storytelling style. The second piece we'll get onto in a second, but how did I get the nature of the way he talks? Excuse me. Well, what we did was we took some recordings of sales conversations that he had. We then uploaded the transcript and had ChatGPT analyze it. And so here were the directions I gave it. I said, describe in detail the speaking style of the guy. His name is Ryan. And then I said, give me a list of the most common phrases and words from that speaker, right? And so I could get a sense of the words that he used most commonly, right? So that was step one. Step two was I then, in addition to the analysis of the way that he talks and the structure and the list of words, I said, okay, here are some emails that he has sent out. I'd like you to look them over so you get a sense of the type of stuff that he talks about in his emails. And then after that, I'm going to give you a next step. So the next step that I said was, okay, I want you to follow this particular copywriting format. The formula that I gave it, I think, was the Quest formula. And I want you to do storytelling throughout the email that you create with this formula. And I would like you to focus on making this key point and this specific call to action, which is to book a call with Ryan to talk about, whatever the thing is that the point of the email is trying to get them to believe. So here is the output that we got from the first try at this, which was that it came up with a story about this surfer, a guy named Kai, who had a routine. And what was the point we were trying to teach? The importance of having a consistent trading routine. So consistency in the way that you approach trading. And so I loved it. This came out with a great little story that that made a point, tied it specifically to how to become more consistent in your behavior as a day trader, and then invited people at the end of the email, which is cut off here in the screenshot, to participate in a call with Ryan to see how he could help them further by enrolling in his program. And I'll read you just a little bit of this. So the subject line is the unexpected lesson I learned from a surfer on consistent trading routines. Hey there. I've got a story for you today that you won't believe. It's about how a chance encounter with a laid back surfer taught me the importance of a consistent and effective trading routine. So picture this. I was on vacation in Hawaii, soaking up the sun and watching surfers riding the waves. I struck up a conversation with this one surfer named Kai. He was a super chill dude, but don't let his relaxed demeanor fool you. He was a pro when it came to conquering the waves. And then, as I said, it goes on to talk about the daily routine and consistency, and then transitions to the key point of consistency in trading. All right, let's talk briefly about Notion. This is, as I said, not actually an AI platform. Well, not exactly, but it's something that I use to organize a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. So when it comes to ChatGPT, I use it specifically to keep track of all of the chats in ChatGPT, because at least right now, and this hopefully will change, ChatGPT is kind of hard to manage and find stuff in, and maybe they'll put some search functionality in there. That's one of the reasons I use plugins, or excuse me, Chrome extensions, to be able to manage and sort through stuff. But this is how I organize things so that I can quickly and easily get to them and find them. I just keep them managed inside of my Notion account. Notion, by the way, is a free tool. There's a paid version, but you can do what I'm showing you here in the free version. I also keep all of my prompts. So I have the ability to just go and grab something that I find I'm using on a regular basis and pull it over, just copy it and paste it into Jasper often, or ChatGPT. I use them interchangeably. I also use a lot of other tools, but I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of a whole list of tools. And then, of course, like everything that's going to have AI built into it in the not too distant future, there is AI available in Notion as well. I don't really use it. I've used it to play around with once or twice. I found that it wasn't really something that I use, but I want to make the point that AI is starting to be built into pretty much everything we use these days. Case in point, Zoom, which I wasn't expecting, and of course, poof, there it was when I opened up my email yesterday and jumped into a Zoom call, and it asked me, hey, would you like to use the meeting summary capability? All right, so let's jump back to this question that I asked you earlier. What business problems am I dealing with, and how can AI help me? So you may recall that there was that article in the Harvard Business Review that I had Perplexity summarize for me. It's an interesting article. There's a lot of discussion about prompt engineering and creativity around, or expertise around writing prompts being the job of the future. And this article argues, actually, no, it's not. It's problem solving is actually it's going to be the key to AI in the future. And so this was part of the summary that I got from Perplexity. It broke it down to these elements of problem solving, and I thought, well, I'm actually dealing with a problem in my own business right now. How could AI help me? And so I'll give you an example of exactly how I used it to work through a problem. So you may recall that I'm in the business of working with marketing agency owners and service providers. And what I do with them is train them on a consulting framework that my partner and I created, and train them on how to sell it and then how to administer the consulting process, which is around building out systems and process and overall marketing strategy for their clients, rather than just digging into the tactics that they do. So we're training our clients at the moment, these marketers, on how to do this stuff. And we're finding that they're actually a lot more needy or clingy or relying on us. And we want to help them, right? We want to support them. But I'm not really well-versed in the training world. I'm well-versed in the marketing world, in the positioning world, right? And so I don't know things like, how do I train these guys to be successful and not need me? Well, I was thinking about, okay, I'm going to participate in meetings with these guys to get them up and running and be their sort of consulting co-pilot, to borrow that term that Microsoft is going to be using. And so I said to ChatGPT, all right, I need to solve this problem. Here are the three choices that I'm trying to decide between. Number one, participate fully in all of the consulting calls with them for their first or maybe the first few clients. Number two, I could participate in the first several calls that they do and then sort of back out and let them do the rest. And then number three, I could not participate in the calls at all, but I could have make myself available in advance of the calls and after the calls to help guide them and answer their questions and give them feedback on things that they did. So then I said, okay, now that you have all this information, now that you have all this context, here's my question. Based on human psychology, learning, and behavior, which will be the most appropriate path to use to instill confidence in my clients who are doing this consulting work and set them up for greater success going forward with future consulting projects? Now, it gave me some really interesting output, and I had a dialogue with it back and forth before these results, which I ultimately got after chatting one or two times to clarify some things and give it some additional information. But it gave me a roadmap that it recommended based on my desire to set them up for success in the future and make sure that they were able to start taking on more and more responsibility. And so it gave me, sort of what to do. For the first couple of months, I should actively participate. And then the next couple of months, I should reduce my involvement. Then I should sort of let them off on their own. And then at the end, we do reflection and feedback of the overall process. And that really gave me a sense of, all right, now I know how to go into this, and I'm going to tell them that this is the path that we're pursuing, and here's why. So I hope you can see these use cases. It's a very broad range, right? Everything from how to write emails to how to make decisions in your business. And I want to share a little bit about what I'm doing. This is not my main business, working in the AI world to train people, but I'm fascinated by it. I hope you can tell from the enthusiasm in my presentation here. It's really cool stuff. And so for a handful of folks, I am making myself available to work through a process of AI implementation in your business. Here's how it's structured, and it's fairly straightforward. We look at one or two or maybe three things that you're trying to address in your business, right? What are the problems that you're dealing with that you're trying to solve, and can AI help solve that? Well, that's what we're doing. We do a 90-minute deep dive. Let's figure this out together. Let's build out the process for doing it. And then I give you 60 full days of follow-up to check in with me, send me an email, say, hey, I got a follow-up question, or if there's something you want to jump on Zoom and look at, you get 15 minutes of my time to review it and go on to the next step in your process. And so you have basically 2 months of continuous follow-up, as much as you need, once a day, and obviously manageable amounts of chunks, because you got to do the work as well. Plus, I'm throwing in all of the various prompt kits and training that I sell on my site as well. And if you want more information on that, you can head on over to AICoterie.com, or perhaps I've been smart enough to put this video on a page where there is a button linking you over to that as well. In any event, I hope that this has been useful, insightful for you. And if you have questions about implementing AI in your business, or other use cases for AI, or some of the tools that I recommend, which I'll also leave a link for under this video, by all means, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to help point you in the right direction. So thanks so much for watching the replay, and I hope that you found some great value in this, and I look forward to seeing what you are able to do in your business by leveraging artificial intelligence. Take care.